Alright guys, welcome to my UFC 304 predictions video. In this video, we're going to break down the main fights on the cards that we're invested in. We're not going to break down the whole card, okay? There's no point me just giving me best guess. I've done it with the last UFC, and there was a lot of fighters on there who I didn't do much research on, and I haven't really been following. I have been somewhat of a UFC casual in terms of not keeping up with every single fighter on the UFC roster. To be honest, it's just the main fighters and the main card fighters, excuse me, and the big up-and-coming fighters that have been keeping tracks on. So I don't want to really spoil me prediction rate by just doing a 50-50 guess of who's going to win. Right, so the first fight we are going to break down is Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze. I never pronounce his second name, but let's take a quick little look at Arnold Allen's last fights. Right, he lost against Movsar Eloviv. I never pronounce it. You guys know I'm terrible with names. But this guy's 18-0, and he's an absolute savage. He's a beast. Taking the L to Movsar, you know, it's not really that bad. Movsar's beating everyone right now. And then he lost against Max Holloway. Arnold Allen isn't going into this fight with any momentum. But the people who he's lost against are pretty top tier. However, the guy who he's up against, Giga, is a bit of a savage. Now let's take a look at some of the key attributes of each fighter here. Right, Arnold Allen has got a 41% striking accuracy. Giga has got 43%. So they're actually fairly similar with regards to the striking accuracy. Now look at the takedown accuracy. Arnold Allen has got pretty decent takedown accuracy, 50%. Now Giga has only got 33%. But Arnold Allen has got decent wrestling. I mean, look, he's got 75% takedown defense. Giga has got 69% takedown defense. Although when Giga gets taken down, he struggles to get back to his feet. Whereas Arnold Allen, he's almost got that GSP style because he is working with Faraz Sahabi. Is he still working with Faraz Sahabi? Well, I knew he was for a certain amount of time up in Canada. He's got that GSP style where he's kind of good everywhere. He's just a good, well-rounded fighter. Now, going through my notes, my overall thoughts on this fight, Arnold Allen is really good at grappling. Giga doesn't do too good on the ground. And if you go and watch the Giga Chikadze versus Calvin Kattar fight, I watched it just before this video to do some research. Calvin Kattar takes Giga down easily, despite Calvin Kattar more so being a boxer. Calvin Kattar was never really known for his takedowns. He stood toe-to-toe with Max Holloway, but Calvin Kattar has got fantastic boxing, yet when he was willing to stand and bang with Giga, he went for the takedown. Well, he went for the body lock. Giga threw a kick and then spun himself round, and then Calvin Kattar ran in and grabbed him by the body lock and then was able to take him down, and then Giga didn't really have any answers for Calvin Kattar on the floor. Another thing that I noticed in that Calvin Kattar fight is Giga fights really well on the front foot, but if you put a bit of pressure on him, like Calvin Kattar did, he struggles. So he struggles fighting off the back foot, and he also hasn't got great defense when he's on the back foot. So if you put a little bit of pressure on Giga Chikadze, giggity, put a bit of pressure on him, I don't want to say folds, but he's just not as good. He doesn't look like this world beater that he did in 2021. And that's another thing. Let's go back a little bit further. If you look back at Giga's last fights before the Calvin Kattar fight, when he fought Edson Barbosa, Giga Chikadze in that Edson Barbosa fight, which he won, was so aggressive. He was very fast twitchy, very explosive, mixing it up. His kicks were like crazy fast. But we haven't really seen that level of aggression from Giga Chikadze in his recent fights. He fought Alex Caceres, but I couldn't find that fight on YouTube. I need to re-sign back up to UFC Fight Pass so I can watch these fights again. But I remember that fight, well, it was a unanimous decision by Giga Chikadze, but a lot of people said that it was fairly close. Alex Caceres had a few moments in that fight, and I just think, have we already seen the peak of Giga Chikadze, and are we yet to see the peak of Arnold Allen? Because Arnold Allen's last two fights were against two really top-tier opponents. Okay, people are talking about that Movsar like he's going to be the next champion. So, you know, Giga Chikadze is struggling against fighters outside of the top 5, the top 10, yet Arnold Allen is fighting world beaters like Max Holloway and holding his own. Arnold Allen's shown that he's got the skills to be there in the mix within the top 5, the top 7 fighters, or top 10 at worst. And are we yet to see that out of Giga Chikadze? I think in this fight, I actually think we're going to see Arnold Allen play it safe. I think because he's coming off 2 losses, even though they were against very good opponents, I can't really see Arnold Allen taking many risks in this fight. I think he's going to play it safe. He doesn't know what Giga Chikadze is going to come out there. It's a little bit of a toss-up, But I think Arnold Allen, he's going to throw a few jabs from distance, and then he's going to try and go for a few takedowns. He's going to control Giga against the fence. Giga might land a few kicks. His body kick is absolutely incredible. But I think Arnold Allen might be able to out-muscle him and out-jab him for the entirety of the fight and get, let's say, a boring decision. Okay, boring decision, Arnold Allen. I think we might have seen the best of Giga Chikadze back in 2021. Next, we got Bobby Green versus Paddy the Pimblett. A few of you guys laughed because I called him Paddy the Pimblett the other day instead of Paddy the Baddie. So Bobby Green versus Paddy the Pimblett. I done a little bit of a breakdown video the other day talking about both of these fighters and my early prediction. I got a little bit of hate because I said Paddy the Pimblett is probably going to get the job done, or that's just my prediction at least. I'm supporting my fellow Scouser. Now, I did say in that video that this video was going to be biased. So some of you guys, I'm going to say some of you, maybe like 3 people out of 100 odd comments were saying, oh, this is a casual take. I laid out legit arguments as to how Paddy the Pimblett can get this fight done. Okay, nothing I said in that video was a casual take. I laid it out clear as day, and I'm going to give you a little bit more detail, so you can't be in the comments like, oh, it's a casual. I have been a little bit casually recently, but the big fighters like these, I'm tuned into, I'm focused on, I'm aware of what they're doing. It's only the upcoming fighters who I'm not really paying much attention to. So we got Bobby Green. Okay, so he's 32 and 15. A lot of experience. However, Bobby Green's 37 or 38. He's a little bit older. Now look, Paddy has only had, how many fights has he had in the UFC? Like 5, 6, something like that. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights in the UFC. But he's got 21 wins, 3 losses. That's not bad. That's 24 fights, and only 5 of them have been in the UFC. And how old is Paddy? 27. Is there a 10-year difference between them? Paddy 27 or 28. So Paddy's actually got, relatively speaking, a lot of experience when compared to Bobby Green. They're both experienced fighters, but Paddy's younger. Paddy's still got the chin. Paddy hasn't been rocked multiple times. He's been cracked, but he hasn't been rocked. Now let's compare some stats and records first. So once again, for anyone saying a casual take, everything we're talking about here is going off stats, analytics, numbers. Bobby King Green, I'm not calling him King, guys. Bobby Green, 11 wins by knockout, 9 wins by submission, which is surprising for someone like Bobby Green who strikes that much. Although he has got over 30 wins, so he just kind of gets these submissions as a byproduct of fighting that much. So take a look at this Bobby Green stats. Striking accuracy, 53%. Paddy the Pimblett's striking accuracy is 53%. Exactly the same. Bobby Green's takedown accuracy is 39%. Paddy the Pimblett has got even worse takedown accuracy. Paddy the Baddie's takedown accuracy, or should we say offensive wrestling, it's kind of non-existent. Paddy, if you're watching this, don't hate me. Don't come round to me gym and batter me or anything. Paddy doesn't get takedowns like that. He'll also be fighting you against the cage, and then you'll both end up in a body lock or a clinch, and then he'll drag you down to the ground. This isn't really representative of Paddy's ground game. Right, now I've got all my notes down. We're going to go through them because I wanted to proper articulate the reason why I'm going with Paddy the Baddie, Paddy the Pimblett, to win this fight. One thing I like about Paddy is he's had 6 months off working on his skills. He got a little bit fat, but not as fat as he used to get. And also, I seen him on Instagram the other day. The man is looking absolutely shredded. Look at him right here. Hey, to be fair, Molly looks good as well. This might be the best shape he's been in. And if Paddy is getting dead fat in between these fight camps, he's not going to be as athletic, and he's not going to be able to sharpen his arsenal and his tool set as much if he's really fat and really out of shape. I think Paddy's being focused. I think he came out there in the Jared Gordon fight, didn't look that great, okay? He tore the ligaments in his right ankle in the first round in that fight, but, you know, he wasn't really happy with the hate that he got after that fight. And then he had the Tony Ferguson fight, and in that Tony Ferguson fight, it was, I mean, he dominated, but it was a little bit of a lackluster performance considering what people expect of Paddy. People are expecting all this hype behind Paddy, and, you know, he comes out there and just takes Tony Ferguson to a decision, whereas Bobby Green was able to submit Tony Ferguson. Although MMA math doesn't really work like that, so we can't say, oh, well, this guy beat this guy and this guy didn't, therefore this guy is better than that guy. It doesn't really work like that. Styles make fights. But anyway, Bobby has also been somewhat iffy in his last 2 performances. So he went toe-to-toe with Jim Miller for 3 rounds and couldn't get him out of there. An old on the back end of his career, about to retire Jim Miller. And Bobby Green got dropped by Jim Miller in that fight. And then the fight before that, it was against Jalen Turner. And it was an incredibly bad stoppage. So Bobby Green has been quite chinny. He's been a lot more chinny than Paddy. Oh, and I forgot, Tony Ferguson also dropped Bobby Green with a jab. Paddy fought Tony Ferguson and didn't get dropped and took some decent shots off Tony. So Bobby Green's last few performances, okay, he won his last fight against Jim Miller, but then lost against Jalen Turner, got caught by Tony Ferguson. I'm not too sure. There was a little period where Bobby Green was looking really slick and almost untouchable, like very awkward and tough to deal with because of the way he defends shots and that. But, I don't know, recently I'm thinking, has he lost a little bit of that skip in his step with regards to his skill set? I'm kind of banking on Paddy being the fresher fighter. He's younger, he's got a little bit more hunger, maybe a bit more tenacity. And here is how I think the fight is going to go, okay? So I think Paddy is going to use his kicks to stay at range and bait Bobby into closing the distance. And Paddy will either be able to catch Bobby on the way in with a punch or be able to clinch up and get a body lock and drag Bobby Green down to the ground and eventually get a submission. I said in my video the other day, potentially a rear naked choke. And the reason being, I see it going this way, is because Bobby excels when he's getting pressured. Okay, so he's a really great counter fighter. He uses his head movement and his shoulder rolls. You see the way Bobby fights? He loves you coming at him and he rolls like this, dips right back and uses his shoulders to deflect the punches in order to set up some angles to then create the counters. Now, Paddy, of course, knows this. And I don't think he's going to fall into that trap. I don't think he's going to fall into a boxing trap with Bobby Green. I think what Paddy is going to do is he's going to use the kicks. And the reason being is because kicks change the game with regards to head movement. If I was fighting Bobby Green, I wouldn't try and box with him. I probably wouldn't even try and take him down, especially when I've only got a 25% takedown success rate. I would spam kicks. I'd go low kicks, I'd go body kicks, jab, cross, high kick, I'd go lead leg, high kick, hook kicks, spinning kicks. I would just use as many kicks as possible because it's easy to slip 1-2s, whoop, whoop, slip that 1-2, but it's not easy to slip low kicks, high kicks, teeps, okay? Teep to the body, you can do all this all you want, but your body's still there to be hit. So I think Paddy will frustrate Bobby with the kicks and get Bobby to close the distance. And then from there, Paddy might be able to take Bobby Green down by a body lock, clinch up, take him down, then just work the back, getting a rear naked choke. Or he might be able to KO Bobby on the way in, because we noticed that happen in the Tony Ferguson fight. As Paddy and Tony were coming in, Paddy was catching Tony, but also Paddy was getting caught in that fight. It's just that Paddy ate those shots from Tony Ferguson. Bobby Green couldn't eat those shots from Tony Ferguson, and we're talking about an old, miles past his prime Tony Ferguson. So I'm going to go with Paddy the Baddy to win this fight by KO or submission in the second or third round. It's a controversial one, but guys, you can't blame me. I'm backing me fellow Scouser. I'm doing it, okay? You can say, you're wrong with the prediction, you're wrong. Listen, I'm backing Paddy. Okay. Also, I will say this just before we move on to the next prediction. I do actually believe Bobby Green can get this fight done. In no way am I underestimating Bobby Green. Some people take it as like offense that, how dare you choose the fighter who I'm not choosing? All right, well, why don't you start a YouTube channel and get your predictions right 100% of the time, divvy? Tom Aspinall, 11 wins by knockout. He's got 14 wins total, and 11 of them are by knockout. In fact, his win by method is a 79% KO rate. That's ridiculous, guys. 67% striking accuracy. And he's only attempted 200 total strikes, which is actually fairly low considering how many fights he's had in the UFC. And that is because he throws straight shots down the pipe. If we take a look at Blaydes, he's got a bit more experience than Tom Aspinall, 22 fights total, and he's only got 50% striking accuracy, so he's 17% behind Tom Aspinall. His takedown accuracy is only 53% as well. His takedown defense, now this is crazy. Curtis Blaydes is a wrestler, but he's only got a 32% takedown defense. That's pretty insane. Right, let's resort to my notes. As evident by the stats, you're seeing Tom Aspinall is pretty much better everywhere. Now, Blaydes is a tough opponent, and we've seen in the first fight, Blaydes isn't afraid to throw hands, but for 15 seconds, Blaydes threw a 1-2 3 times. That's it. So Blaydes will throw hands, and he will catch you, and I do think he might actually catch Tom once or twice in this fight. But as I said in yesterday's video, we do have to destroy the narrative that Blaydes was piecing up Tom in the first fight. A few of you guys commented on my video yesterday and said that my video gave them a different perspective of what really happened in that fight. A lot of people did believe that Tom kind of got struck a few times. But when you watch my video yesterday and we slow it all down, Blaydes doesn't even touch Tom. Blaydes only lands one punch to Tom Aspinall's collarbone right there. And as Tom goes down to the floor, so as Tom grabs his knee, and goes back like that, which done zero damage. Tom hurt himself. Tom finished himself, from throwing the low kick, and his knee went. And here's my prediction. I think this fight goes exactly the same as the Sergey Pavlovich fight. Or, thereabouts anyway. I think Tom will throw a couple low kicks. I think Tom's been working a lot on his footwork, his head movements, and I think we're going to see a little bit of that in this fight. Kind of like Alex Pereira. I think Curtis Blaydes might throw a little 1-2, and we might see Tom slip it. And then I think Tom's just going to blitz in with a couple straight punches, catch Curtis on the side of the head. He's going to wobble him, and then maybe finish him on the ground with some ground and pound or a submission. This could be a copy and paste performance of the Sergey Pavlovich fight incoming. Let's go. Next, we have Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. And I feel sorry for the crowd and these fighters. These guys are going to be stepping in the cage to fight at 5 a.m. Damn, and talk about giving the American fighters an advantage. We'll touch upon that in a second. So I watched the first fight. I watched it back again because I completely forgot what happened. I was under the impression that Belal Muhammad got poked in the eye in like the first 30 seconds of the fight. Leon was destroying Belal in that fight. Belal was tentative. He looked like a fish out of water. He threw a spinning kick attempt, which was very weird for Belal to do. That goes to show that he was just frustrated and done something very uncharacteristic of himself to do. Leon caught Belal Muhammad with a big head kick and wobbled Belal. Leon looked much more like a killer in that fight than some of his more recent fights. Now, was it because Belal Muhammad at the time wasn't as much of a threat as someone like Kamaru Usman was? I don't know if I found that Leon in the Nate Diaz fight, in the second Usman fight, he was a bit more composed. And that's not a bad thing at all. I just found watching back this first Belal Muhammad fight, he was trying to finish the fight. You could tell he was throwing with nasty intent. And also, Leon Edwards is a master of keeping range. Belal couldn't even go for the takedown, because Leon was just always keeping that void, that distance between them both, and Belal didn't really know what to do. And anytime that Belal tried to close the distance, Leon was able to just ping him. Now, to be fair to Belal, he has looked a lot better in his striking recently, and he's looked a lot more dominant, especially in that Sean Brady fight. But besides that Sean Brady win, Belal has been a decision machine his entire career, and he's only really had 4 finishes within the UFC out of 17 fights. That's quite bad, which is probably the reason why his Joe Rogan episode right here only got 35,000 views. On Joe Rogan's 17 million subscriber channel, the majority of these views come from people wanting to see why it's got low views. No one's really invested in Belal Muhammad. I feel sorry for the guy a little bit, but someone even said Belal will even find a way to take a podcast to a decision. Now, let's be fair. Leon Edwards has also been on a bit of a decision streak recently, apart from the Kamaru Usman finish. So this could go either way. If you get 2 decision-heavy fighters facing each other, then they're either going to go to a decision or someone's getting completely KO'd. Almost the same as when you take one wrestler and another wrestler, put them together, and then they end up having a striking battle. They could actually cancel each other out and make for an exciting fight. And that's what I'm hoping happens. So I would like to see someone go to sleep in this fight, and hopefully it's not the UK crowd. I can't commit to one prediction on this one, so either Leon Edwards to win by a round 2 or 3 head kick KO, or a long, drawn-out decision victory by Leon Edwards. Okay, so regardless, I think Leon Edwards is going to get the job done, but it's either going to be in rounds 2 or 3 by a head kick. He's going to go 1-2, boom, head kick, because he landed it in the first fight. He landed it against Kamaru Usman, and I think Edwards is going to try and exploit that tendency again, and he's going to get the head kick KO. Or as I say, just a long drawn out decision, a lot of boos from the crowd, and Edwards is going to win. But they are my predictions, guys. Now, one thing I'm worried about for the English fighters is the time that they are fighting. So the Americans are keeping their hometown advantage here. All they have to do is come over on the plane and keep their same sleep schedule, whereas the UK boys have to completely readjust their sleep and training schedule to accommodate the 2 a.m. main card start time, which I just think is massively unfair. Why couldn't Dana White just even at least push it back 2-3 hours rather than it being like a 6 a.m. finish? And that actually makes me feel not too comfortable in these predictions, knowing the time difference is such a big advantage for the Americans. I feel like we could see some upsets here. I do think Belal could just pull it out the bag. Maybe Blaydes pulls it out the bag as well. Bobby Green, KOs Paddy Pimblett. But these are my educated, logical, best predictions based on the research that I've done. You guys comment all your predictions down below. We're going to go live this Saturday and do a full fight companion. So make sure you tune in for that. Appreciate you all. See you tomorrow.